Get your dirty monkey hands off that compartment, boy! Flight attendant Rebecca Thornton's face contorts with pure hatred. She drives her foot viciously into the expensive leather suitcase, sending it exploding to the floor. Government contracts worth millions scatter like trash. Rebecca snatches Daniel's family photo and waves it mockingly. Look at this, trying to pretend you have a real family. Pathetic. She tears the photo in half and drops the pieces on his head. Daniel Washington, dressed in his immaculate suit, kneels among the destruction. His hands tremble as passengers gasp in horror around him. Rebecca plants her heel on his scattered business documents and grinds them into the carpet. This is what happens when welfare rats try to play dress-up in first class. You people never learn your place, do you? She kicks his laptop under the seats and crosses her arms smugly. Have you ever seen a single phone call destroy someone's entire career? Because what happened next would end 20 years of airline service in 60 seconds. The alarm buzzes at 5:30 a.m. in Daniel Washington's penthouse apartment. Floor-to-ceiling windows reveal Atlanta's skyline bathed in golden morning light. The scent of fresh coffee drifts from the kitchen where his housekeeper has already prepared his usual breakfast. Daniel adjusts his silk tie in the mirror. At 42, he carries himself with the quiet confidence of someone who built an empire from nothing. His tailored suit fits perfectly across his broad shoulders. The platinum watch on his wrist cost more than most people's cars. His phone rings. Maria, his personal assistant, sounds excited. Mr. Washington, the Seattle contract is confirmed. $500 million. The government is ready to sign tomorrow. Daniel smiles, running his fingers over the leather briefcase containing the final documents. 15 years ago, he started Washington Tech Solutions in his garage after being laid off from a company that promoted everyone except him. Now his cybersecurity firm employs 12,000 people across 6 countries. Book me a commercial, Maria. First class on Delta. Sir, your private jet is ready. Why commercial? Daniel gazes out at the city below. Sometimes I need to remember what regular people go through. Keeps me grounded. His driver, James, a 60-year-old man who's worked for Daniel for 8 years, loads the briefcase into the black Mercedes. The leather interior smells like success and expensive cologne. Mr. Washington, James says, catching his eye in the rearview mirror. Sometimes success doesn't protect you from ignorance. Just be careful out there. Meanwhile, across town, Rebecca Thornton slams her apartment door. The paint peels around the edges. Dirty dishes pile in the sink. Bills scatter across her kitchen table like accusations. 22 years with Delta Airlines, and she's still struggling. Her ex-husband stopped paying child support 6 months ago. Her teenage daughter won't speak to her. Her son needs money for college she doesn't have. Rebecca stares at her reflection in the cracked bathroom mirror. Her blonde hair shows gray roots she can't afford to touch up. Crow's feet etch deeper around her eyes each year. At 45, she feels invisible except when she's wearing her uniform. The Delta uniform gives her power, real power. She arrives at Hartsfield-Jackson Airport and badges into the crew area. The fluorescent lights buzz overhead. The smell of industrial cleaning solution burns her nostrils. "Morning, Rebecca," says Sarah, a 28-year-old new hire with bright eyes and naive optimism. Rebecca sneers. "Another day of dealing with entitled passengers who think money makes them special." Sarah shifts uncomfortably. "The diversity training last month was actually pretty helpful. Made me think about diversity training?" Rebecca's voice drips venom. "Political correctness garbage. Some people need to learn their place, and it's my job to teach them." The crew briefing reveals Flight 447 is completely sold out. 396 passengers, several VIPs in first class. Rebecca's supervisor assigns her to the premium cabin. "Perfect," she mutters. "Where I can make a real difference." Rebecca begins her pre-flight inspection with surgical precision. She arranges the first-class cabin like a general preparing for battle. Every napkin folded perfectly. Every seat is positioned exactly. This is her domain. The first passengers begin boarding. Rebecca watches with hawk-like intensity as each person approaches. She serves champagne to the elderly white businessman in 2A with a warm smile. The young white couple in 3B receives extra peanuts and friendly conversation. Then she sees him. Daniel Washington walks down the jet bridge with quiet dignity. His expensive suit screams money. His confident stride suggests someone accustomed to respect. His dark skin makes Rebecca's jaw clench with familiar rage. He approaches seat 1A with his leather briefcase and carry-on suitcase. The overhead compartment directly above his purchased seat beckons like an invitation. Rebecca feels her blood pressure spike. Not today. Not on her aircraft. She watches Daniel place his briefcase in the space beneath the seat in front of him. Standard procedure. Nothing wrong. But when he reaches for the overhead compartment for his suitcase, something inside Rebecca snaps. This is her moment. Her chance to remind someone exactly who holds the power 35,000 feet above the ground. The cabin fills with the usual boarding chaos. Conversations blend together, children cry, passengers shuffle past each other in the narrow aisles. The air recycling system hums steadily overhead. Daniel opens the overhead compartment with practiced ease. His movements are calm, respectful. He's clearly traveled first class many times before. Rebecca approaches like a predator stalking prey. Daniel lifts his suitcase toward the overhead compartment. The leather handle feels smooth in his grip. Around him, passengers settle into their seats with the usual boarding shuffle. The cabin smells of recycled air and someone's expensive perfume. "Excuse me?" Rebecca's voice cuts through the ambient noise like a blade. "That compartment is reserved for crew items only." Daniel pauses, suitcase halfway to the bin. He turns with polite confusion. "I'm sorry, but this is directly above my seat. I have first-class boarding privileges." He reaches into his jacket pocket and produces his boarding pass. The gold Delta medallion catches the cabin light. Seat 1A, premium passenger status clearly displayed. Rebecca doesn't even glance at the ticket. Her eyes narrow with contempt. "I don't care what your little piece of paper says. Some people need to learn aircraft etiquette." The words hang in the air like poison gas. Nearby passengers begin to notice the tension. Conversations quiet to whispers. Heads turn slowly toward the confrontation. Daniel maintains his composure despite the obvious hostility. "Ma'am, I've flown Delta for 15 years. I understand the protocols completely. This is my designated overhead space according to federal aviation guidelines." "Your designated space?" Rebecca's laugh sounds like breaking glass. "Listen carefully, boy. On this aircraft, I decide what belongs where, and you clearly don't belong in first class." The racial undertone hits Daniel like a physical blow. His jaw tightens imperceptibly, but his voice remains perfectly steady. "I'd like to speak with your supervisor immediately, please." "I am the supervisor on this aircraft." Rebecca steps closer, deliberately invading his personal space. Her breath smells of stale coffee and barely contains rage. "And you'll follow my rules or find yourself permanently banned from flying Delta." Daniel continues placing his suitcase in the overhead bin. His movements remain calm and deliberate despite the escalating hostility. He refuses to be intimidated by her aggressive posturing. "Sir, you need to stop what you're doing right now," Rebecca commands, her voice rising to ensure other passengers can hear every word. Other first-class passengers pretend to read magazines while straining to catch every detail. The tension crackles through the cabin like electricity before a thunderstorm. Rebecca's face twists with uncontrolled rage. Without warning, she drives her foot into the suitcase with vicious, calculated force. Crash. The expensive leather case explodes from the compartment like a bomb detonating. Government contracts worth millions of dollars scatter across first class like confetti in a hurricane. Daniel's platinum laptop skitters under passenger seats with a grinding scrape of metal against carpet. His family photos flutter through the air like dying birds before landing face down on the wine-stained floor. The cabin erupts in shocked gasps. Phone cameras emerge like flowers after rain, passengers instinctively documenting the unfolding disaster. Whispered conversations buzz with disbelief and horror. Daniel drops to his knees among the destruction, his expensive suit now wrinkled and stained. His hands shake visibly as he gathers the scattered remnants of his professional life. The leather portfolio containing his Seattle presentation lies torn and trampled, months of preparation destroyed in seconds. Rebecca towers over him like a conquering general, her blonde hair severe under the harsh cabin lights. "Ladies and gentlemen, we have someone here who thinks rules don't apply to them." She addresses the cabin with theatrical authority, gesturing dramatically toward Daniel's kneeling form. This individual refused direct crew instructions and demonstrated clear aggressive behavior toward airline personnel. Jennifer Martin, a 35-year-old civil rights attorney in Seat 2C, pulls out her legal pad and begins writing furiously. Her pen scratches against paper with urgent intensity, documenting every word and action. Robert Brooks, a 50-year-old tech executive in 3A, recognizes Daniel from industry conferences but remains frozen in his seat. His mouth opens slightly in recognition and mounting horror. A young mother in 4B covers her children's eyes, shielding them from the ugly scene unfolding before them. Rebecca calls toward the galley with manufactured urgency. "Sarah, contact security immediately. We have an aggressive passenger refusing to comply with federal aviation regulations." Sarah, the young flight attendant, hesitates at the galley entrance. Her face shows clear confusion and discomfort with the situation. "Ma'am," Daniel says quietly, still kneeling among his scattered documents, "I was simply using my designated overhead space according to standard first-class protocols. I haven't been aggressive toward anyone." "Don't you dare lie to these passengers." Rebecca's voice booms through first class like a foghorn. "I personally witnessed you threaten crew safety and refuse direct lawful orders from airline personnel." She turns to address the other passengers like a prosecutor presenting damning evidence to a jury. "You all witnessed him ignore my safety instructions and behave aggressively toward crew members, didn't you?" Most passengers stare in uncomfortable silence, their faces showing obvious distress. A few elderly passengers nod uncertainly, intimidated by Rebecca's authoritative presence. Others exchange worried glances, sensing something deeply wrong. 2 TSA officers board the aircraft through the jet bridge. Mike Patterson, a burly man in his 40s with tired eyes, enters first. Behind him follows Janet Cole, a serious-looking woman with sharp features and a no-nonsense expression born from years of airport security work. Rebecca rushes to meet them, her face transformed into a mask of practiced distress. "Officers, thank God you're here. This passenger verbally abused me and made direct threats against crew safety." Mike looks at Daniel, still kneeling among his scattered papers and broken belongings. "Sir, we need you to stand slowly and provide identification." Daniel rises with deliberate care, brushing dust and debris from his expensive suit. "Certainly, officers. I'm Daniel Washington." He reaches for his wallet with slow, non-threatening movements designed to avoid any misunderstanding. Rebecca intercepts his identification before he can hand it to the waiting officers. "Let me verify this documentation is legitimate. We've had significant problems with fraudulent identification recently." She examines his driver's license with exaggerated suspicion, holding it up to the light like a jeweler inspecting a questionable diamond. This address seems awfully expensive for someone like you." The implicit accusation hangs heavy in the recycled cabin air. Several passengers shift uncomfortably in their leather seats, sensing the racial undertones. Janet Cole frowns, her professional instincts detecting something amiss. "Ma'am, what specific federal regulations did this passenger violate?" Rebecca launches into an elaborate fabrication, her voice gaining confidence with each invented detail. "He refused to follow mandatory federal aviation regulations regarding overhead storage safety protocols. When I politely explained the legal requirements, he immediately became verbally abusive and invaded my personal space in a clearly threatening manner designed to intimidate crew personnel." Daniel's hands clench into fists, then deliberately relax as years of professional training take over. "Officers, I have video documentation on my phone showing exactly what transpired. I was placing my regulation carry-on in the overhead bin directly above my purchased first-class seat when Miss Thornton deliberately kicked it to the floor." "He's fabricating evidence." Rebecca's voice reaches a shrill, desperate pitch. "I feared for my physical safety. This individual clearly demonstrates serious anger management issues and potential mental instability." Captain Reynolds emerges from the cockpit, drawn by the escalating commotion. His gray hair and deeply weathered face speak of 4 decades in commercial aviation. "What exactly seems to be the problem here?" Rebecca immediately assumes a victim posture, her entire demeanor shifting to wounded innocence. "Captain, this passenger made direct threats against my person when I requested compliance with mandatory safety protocols. I believe he poses a clear and present security risk to this flight." Rebecca's eyes gleam with predatory satisfaction as she surveys her captured prey. The cabin falls silent except for the steady hum of air circulation and the nervous shuffling of uncomfortable passengers. "Everyone needs to see what we're dealing with here," Rebecca announces, grabbing the aircraft's PA microphone. Her voice booms through all cabins, reaching nearly 400 passengers. "Attention, passengers. We have a security situation in first class that requires your awareness and cooperation. Please remain calm while the crew handles this matter." Daniel's hands clench involuntarily. 396 pairs of eyes now focus on his humiliation. The weight of their stares feels like physical pressure against his shoulders. Rebecca forces Daniel to stand in the center aisle while she addresses the entire aircraft. "Sir, I need you to raise your hands above your head for everyone's safety. Ma'am, this is completely unnecessary. Hands up!" Rebecca's shriek echoes through the cabin. "We don't know what you're capable of." Daniel slowly raises his hands. The degradation burns like acid in his throat. Passengers crane their necks to witness his public shaming. Phone cameras multiply like hungry eyes. Rebecca conducts a theatrical safety inspection in full view of first class. She forces him to empty every pocket, remove his shoes, and surrender his phone. "For everyone's protection," she announces loudly. His expensive leather wallet hits the floor. Business cards scatter like fallen leaves. Rebecca examines each item with exaggerated suspicion while passengers watch in horrified fascination. "Look at this!" She holds up his platinum credit card. "Probably stolen. These people always live beyond their means." The businessman in 2A shifts uncomfortably. "Ma'am, that seems like an inappropriate assumption." "Sir," Rebecca cuts him off. "Unless you have security clearance, please don't interfere with safety protocols." She pulls out her personal phone and begins live streaming, showing everyone how we handle dangerous passengers. This is why we need strong crew members. The live stream counter climbs rapidly. Hundreds, then thousands of viewers watch Daniel's systematic destruction in real time. Comments flood the screen with support for Rebecca's brave actions. "Now," Rebecca commands, "I want you to explain to these passengers why you think you're above the rules." Daniel's voice remains steady despite the humiliation burning through his veins. "Ma'am, I was simply placing my luggage in the overhead compartment above my purchased seat." "Lies!" Rebecca shrieks. "Tell the truth! Admit you threatened crew safety!" The passengers exchange uncomfortable glances. Several begin recording with obvious sympathy for Daniel. Others look away in shame at witnessing such degradation. Rebecca notices the sympathetic recordings and addresses them directly. "Those phones better not be defending this individual's behavior. You're all witnesses to his aggression." She forces Daniel to apologize to every first-class passenger individually. "Go ahead. Tell them you're sorry for disrupting their flight with your attitude problem." Daniel moves through the cabin with quiet dignity intact despite the orchestrated humiliation. "I apologize that you had to witness this unfortunate situation." His grace under pressure only inflames Rebecca's rage further. She demands he stand while she sits in his paid first-class seat. This is how real authority works. The leather seat creaks under her weight as she makes herself comfortable in his expensive accommodation. "Maybe next time you'll think twice before challenging airline personnel." Rebecca announces his full name over the PA system. "Attention all passengers and crew. Please note that Daniel Washington has been flagged as a problem passenger. This information will be shared with other airlines." The public announcement feels like a death sentence to his reputation. His name now echoes through the aircraft like an indictment. "Ma'am," Jennifer Martin says, "this treatment seems excessive for a simple luggage dispute." Rebecca rounds on the attorney with venomous focus. "Ma'am, are you questioning federal aviation security procedures? I can have you removed as well." Jennifer continues writing in her legal pad, undeterred by the threat. Rebecca calls TSA supervisors claiming terrorist-like behavior and suspicious documentation. She contacts FBI liaison officers suggesting Daniel might be using fake identity for criminal purposes. Her phone calls multiply like a virus spreading through the system. Each call adds another layer to Daniel's persecution. Local police receive reports of physical assault and crew intimidation. "How did someone like you get access to classified government information?" Rebecca examines his contracts loudly enough for surrounding passengers to hear every word. She holds up the official documents like evidence of criminal activity. "These look suspicious to me. Probably forged." Daniel watches months of preparation being destroyed by ignorant hands. The Seattle contract worth $500 million might evaporate because of this woman's hatred. Rebecca contacts local news media with breathless urgency. "This is Rebecca Thornton from Delta Flight 447. I'm currently stopping a potential security threat. You need to get cameras here immediately." She positions herself as the hero of her own narrative. "I've probably saved hundreds of lives by identifying this dangerous individual." The time pressure weaponization begins systematically. Rebecca deliberately delays every procedure, knowing Daniel will miss his critical Seattle meeting. "Ladies and gentlemen," she announces over the PA, "this passenger's selfish behavior is delaying everyone's travel plans. His refusal to cooperate is keeping you from your families." Passengers begin checking their watches nervously. Connecting flights hang in the balance. Children grow restless in their seats. The atmosphere grows increasingly hostile toward Daniel. Rebecca taunts him with sadistic pleasure. "I guess your important business meeting isn't so important after all." She forces him to call his Seattle contacts while passengers listen to every word. "Go ahead. Tell them you won't be coming because you can't behave properly on an airplane." The phone calls feel like professional suicide. Years of relationship building crumble with each canceled appointment. Rebecca examines family photos from his scattered belongings with theatrical disgust. "Look at this fancy house. Look at these expensive clothes. Someone's living way above their station." She waves the photos mockingly. "Trying to pretend you're something you're not. Pathetic." The personal attacks cut deeper than professional humiliation. His children's faces smile up from the torn photographs, innocent victims of this woman's cruelty. Rebecca plants her heel on his scattered business documents and grinds them into the aircraft carpet. The sound of tearing paper mingles with the ambient cabin noise. "This is what happens when welfare recipients try to play dress-up in first class," she announces to the captive audience. She kicks his laptop computer under passenger seats, the expensive aluminum case scraping against metal seat tracks. Months of work potentially destroyed in seconds. Local news crews arrive at the gate, summoned by Rebecca's emergency calls. She gives on-camera interviews positioning herself as a heroic flight attendant protecting innocent travelers. "I recognized the threatening behavior patterns immediately," she tells reporters. "My 22 years of experience probably prevented a tragedy today." Social media explodes with her narrative. Flight Safety 447 trends rapidly as Rebecca's version spreads across platforms. She becomes an instant hero to thousands who don't know the truth. Passengers begin turning against Daniel under Rebecca's psychological manipulation. She suggests he's endangering children on board and creating unnecessary security risks. "We don't know what he's really capable of," she whispers loudly enough for everyone to hear. The crowd psychology works perfectly. Suspicious glances multiply. Protective parents pull their children closer. Daniel becomes the perceived threat rather than the victim. Rebecca offers drink vouchers to passengers willing to support her story. Anyone who witnessed this individual's threatening behavior will receive compensation for their inconvenience. Several passengers eagerly accept the bribes, their statements becoming part of her fabricated evidence. The final humiliation arrives with devastating precision. Rebecca forces Daniel into an airport wheelchair for security transport purposes. She parades him through the terminal in restraints while passengers film his degradation. Gate areas fall silent as the procession passes. Hundreds of travelers witness his public destruction. "Dangerous individuals being removed for passenger safety," Rebecca announces to waiting areas filled with innocent bystanders. Daniel sits on the cold terminal floor while Rebecca processes paperwork with theatrical importance. His expensive suit wrinkles against the industrial carpet. His dignity hangs by threads. Rebecca calls his emergency contacts to inform them of his criminal behavior. His reputation crumbles with each devastating phone call. Delta supervisors arrive and initially support Rebecca's account completely. The system protects its own while crushing the perceived outsider. Corporate legal teams prepare federal charges paperwork. Public relations departments draft press releases about preventing potential airline tragedy. Rebecca delivers her final public humiliation speech with triumphant malice. "Ladies and gentlemen, this is what happens when certain people think money can buy them respect. This individual believed his fancy suit and fake confidence could intimidate airline personnel, but on my aircraft, everyone follows the rules. No matter how much they think they're worth, no matter what kind of neighborhood they pretend to live in, when they step on this plane, they answer to me. Her voice rises to a crescendo of righteous indignation. And I will never let someone like this endanger the safety of real passengers. The applause from some passengers feels like nails in Daniel's coffin. After 2 hours of systematic humiliation, Daniel sits on the cold terminal floor. His expensive suit bears wrinkles and stains from the ordeal. The industrial carpet smells of cleaning chemicals and thousands of travelers' footsteps. Rebecca stands over him like a victorious general, her blonde hair still perfectly arranged despite the chaos. Her live stream continues broadcasting to thousands of viewers celebrating her heroic actions. Airport security guards maintain a perimeter around Daniel. Their radios crackle with updates about the dangerous passenger situation. Other travelers give him a wide berth, whispering among themselves about the terrorist threat. Daniel reaches slowly into his jacket pocket. Every movement draws suspicious stares from surrounding security personnel. His fingers close around his phone with deliberate care. Rebecca notices and smirks with sadistic satisfaction. "What are you going to do now? Call your drug dealer for bail money?" Her mocking laughter echoes through the gate area. Several passengers chuckle at her cruel joke. The live stream chat explodes with laughing emojis and supportive comments. Daniel looks up at her with calm eyes that hold depths she cannot fathom. "Actually, I'm calling my business partner." "Your business partner?" Rebecca's voice drips with theatrical disbelief. "What are you going to do? Threaten him too?" The security guards tense slightly, hands moving toward their equipment. Daniel's every word now carries the weight of potential criminal charges. Daniel dials a number with steady fingers while Rebecca continues her mocking commentary for her online audience. "Everyone watch this. He probably thinks calling some imaginary important contact will save him." The phone rings once, twice, then connect. "Richard, this is Daniel Washington." Rebecca rolls her eyes dramatically for her viewers. "Listen to this pathetic performance. I'm currently detained at Atlanta Airport by your flight crew." The words hang in the air like a suspended sentence. Something in Daniel's tone makes Rebecca's smirk falter slightly. His voice carries unmistakable authority despite his degraded position. The voice on the other end carries clearly through the phone's speaker. "Daniel, what's happening? You're supposed to be our VIP passenger today." The terminal suddenly feels vacuum-sealed. Conversations stop mid-sentence. Security guards exchange uncertain glances. Rebecca's face begins draining of color like water from a broken glass. Richard Morrison, CEO of Delta Airlines. The name hits the crowd like lightning striking dry wood. Passengers begin pulling out phones to Google Daniel Washington CEO with frantic urgency. Rebecca's live stream captures her face changing in real time. Confidence crumbles into confusion. Authority dissolves into dawning horror. 20,000 viewers watch her world collapse live. "Richard, I've spent the last 2 hours being systematically humiliated by your flight attendant, Rebecca Thornton. She kicked my luggage, destroyed my contracts, and had me paraded through your terminal in restraints." Morrison's voice explodes through the speaker. "She did what? Daniel, you're our largest corporate client, $50 million annually." The words echo through the gate area like bombs detonating. Passengers gasp in unison. Security guards step backward instinctively. The entire power structure inverts in seconds. Rebecca's phone slips from her trembling fingers. The live stream continues broadcasting her complete destruction to an audience that suddenly understands they've been watching the wrong story. Word spreads through the terminal like wildfire. "They attacked Daniel Washington, the billionaire CEO. Oh my God, they're so screwed." Morrison's voice continues over the speaker. "I'm dispatching our entire executive team immediately. Do not move until we arrive." Corporate lawyers materialize from nowhere, rushing toward the scene with briefcases and terror-stricken faces. Their footsteps echo against marble floors like approaching thunder. Rebecca tries desperately to end her live stream, but passengers have already saved the footage. Screen recordings multiply across social media platforms faster than she can delete them. I didn't know." she stammers, backing away from Daniel's still-seated form. "You didn't know what?" Daniel's voice remains perfectly calm. "You didn't know you should treat human beings with basic dignity." Rebecca's union representative arrives and immediately distances himself from her actions. "Ma'am, the union cannot support falsified incident reports." Captain Reynolds emerges from the jet bridge, his face ashen with realization. He publicly contradicts every claim Rebecca made. This passenger was completely compliant and respectful. The news crew Rebecca summoned realizes they've been filming the wrong narrative. Cameras swing toward Daniel as reporters frantically rewrite their stories. Local CEO brutalized by airline employee replaces hero flight attendant stops terrorist. Social media comments flip from support to horror in real time. Rebecca's triumphant hashtag #FlightSafety447 becomes evidence of her own racism. The internet mob turns on her with vicious efficiency. Airport executives converge on the scene like sharks smelling blood. Everyone suddenly defers to Daniel while ignoring Rebecca completely. The power reversal feels seismic. Rebecca attempts damage control. "If you just told me who you were, I shouldn't have to tell you who I am to be treated like a human being," Daniel responds, rising slowly from the floor. His height and bearing command immediate respect from everyone except the woman who destroyed her own career. He brushes dust from his suit with quiet dignity. Morrison arrives within 45 minutes, personally leading a convoy of black SUVs. The Delta CEO rushes through the terminal like royalty visiting a disaster zone. "Daniel, I am so deeply sorry," Morrison announces publicly. "This treatment is completely unacceptable." Rebecca watches her 22-year career die in real time. Security escorts her away as passengers boo and film her destruction. Her live stream ends with her own humiliation. The entire terminal buzzes with electricity. Phones capture every moment of the power reversal. Justice materializes before hundreds of witnesses. Daniel declines the private jet offer. "I think I'll drive to Seattle. I need time to process this experience." Morrison nods understandingly. "Whatever you need. And Daniel, this will never happen again." Rebecca disappears into airport security offices, her world collapsing faster than she can comprehend. The woman who wielded power like a weapon discovers how quickly it can be taken away. The phone call that was supposed to humiliate Daniel instead destroyed his tormentor completely. Within 20 minutes of Morrison's arrival, Rebecca's professional life ceases to exist. Security escorts her through service corridors to avoid the media circus exploding outside. Her footsteps echo against concrete walls like a death march. "Miss Thornton, you're terminated immediately," Morrison announces in the airport conference room. His voice carries the weight of corporate finality. 22 years of service ends now. Rebecca's face crumbles like old paper. "Mr. Morrison, please, I have children. I need this job. You should have thought about that before live streaming your assault on our most valued client." The union representative slides termination papers across the polished table. "The union cannot defend falsified incident reports or criminal behavior. You're on your own." Rebecca's hands shake as she signs away her pension, her benefits, her future. The pen feels impossibly heavy between her trembling fingers. Her phone buzzes incessantly with notifications. The live stream has exploded across social media platforms. 50 million views and climbing. #Rebecca Racism trends globally within hours. The comments section reads like a digital execution. "Racist flight attendant destroyed by billionaire CEO." This is what happens when Koreans meet consequences. Her face when she realized she messed with the wrong person. Rebecca tries deleting her social media accounts, but screenshots live forever. Her image spreads like wildfire, accompanied by her own recorded words of hatred. Anonymous internet users identify her home address within 2 hours. Pizza deliveries begin arriving by the dozen. Her landlord calls threatening eviction due to the media attention. Her teenage daughter texts from school. "Mom, everyone's sharing videos of you. I'm so embarrassed I can't show my face." Her ex-husband calls furious. "Rebecca, the kids are being harassed because of your racist rant. I'm filing for full custody." The professional aviation industry blacklist happens instantly. Every major airline receives Rebecca's employment records within hours. Her name becomes synonymous with workplace discrimination. Personal bankruptcy looms within 30 days. Legal defense costs drain her savings faster than water through broken pipes. Her attorney abandons her case when payments stop arriving. Meanwhile, Daniel handles his vindication with characteristic grace. He declines Morrison's settlement offer of $50 million. Richard, this isn't about money. It's about ensuring this never happens to anyone else. Morrison nods gravely. What do you want us to do? Systemic change, real accountability, and help for Rebecca's previous victims. Daniel's response spreads through news coverage, painting him as a dignified leader seeking justice over revenge. His approval ratings among business leaders soar. Federal charges materialize against Rebecca with stunning speed. The FBI's Civil Rights Division views her case as a perfect example for prosecution. Filing false police reports becomes the least of her legal problems. Civil rights violations carry a maximum 10-year sentence. Her live stream provides irrefutable evidence of deliberate racial targeting. Expert prosecutors line up to handle her case. Delta implements emergency reforms within hours of the incident. Morrison personally announces a $250 million investment in diversity training for all 90,000 employees. We failed Daniel Washington, Morrison tells the press conference. We failed our values as a company. This ends today. Independent oversight boards form immediately. Passenger rights organizations see donation spikes of 500%. The aviation industry scrambles to avoid similar scandals. Daniel uses his platform strategically. His interviews focus on systemic issues rather than personal revenge. This incident reveals larger problems in how service industries treat people of color. He established the Washington Foundation for Transportation Equality with initial funding of $100 million. The foundation will provide legal representation for discrimination victims across all transportation sectors. Rebecca's children face harassment at school despite Daniel's public request for their protection. These children are innocent victims of their mother's choices, he states during interviews. His grace under pressure becomes a masterclass in leadership during a crisis. Business schools begin incorporating the incident into their curriculum within weeks. Corporate America takes notice. Companies nationwide review their own discrimination policies, terrified of becoming the next Rebecca Thornton scandal. International media coverage positions the story as emblematic of American racial tensions. European airlines implement emergency bias training to avoid similar incidents. Rebecca sits in her empty apartment, surrounded by legal documents and unpaid bills. Her career, reputation, and family relationships lie in ruins. The woman who wielded power like a weapon discovers its terrible cost when used incorrectly. Her final social media post before deleting everything reads, "I made a terrible mistake. I'm sorry." The apology receives no sympathy. Comments pour in from around the world condemning her actions. The internet never forgets, and Rebecca Thornton becomes a permanent symbol of workplace racism consequences. Daniel's phone rings constantly with interview requests and business opportunities. His dignified handling of extreme adversity transforms him into a national figure, but he remains focused on systemic change rather than personal glory. One phone call ended Rebecca's career. Imagine how many careers she ended over 22 years of unchecked discrimination. The immediate consequences ripple outward like stones thrown into still water. Rebecca's destruction becomes the aviation industry's wake-up call. Justice arrives swiftly, completely, and very publicly. 6 months after Flight 447, Rebecca Thornton sits in federal court wearing an ill-fitting public defender's suit. The mahogany courtroom smells of old wood and nervous perspiration. Her hands shake as she faces Judge Patricia Williams, a no-nonsense African-American jurist with 30 years on the bench. The Department of Justice's Civil Rights Division prosecutes with full force. Lead attorney Marcus Brooks presents evidence methodically, each piece building an unshakable case of systematic discrimination. Your Honor, the defendant's live stream provides irrefutable evidence of deliberate racial targeting, Brooks announces, pressing play on the courtroom's audio system. Rebecca's own voice echoes through the packed courtroom. "Get your dirty monkey hands off that compartment, boy!" The gallery gasps collectively. Reporters scribble frantically. Rebecca's remaining family members bury their faces in shame. The investigation revealed Rebecca's 22-year pattern of abuse. FBI agents discovered 47 documented incidents of discrimination against minority passengers. Each case represents a life damaged by unchecked hatred. Maria Santos, a Hispanic mother, testifies through tears. She made my children watch as she threw our luggage in the toilet, said Mexican families belonged in cargo holds. Dr. James Kim recounts how Rebecca forced him to prove his medical degree was legitimate. She called me a fake doctor in front of 300 passengers. My reputation never recovered. Each victim's testimony builds a monument to Rebecca's cruelty. The pattern emerges clearly: systematic targeting, public humiliation, and abuse of airline authority to terrorize passengers. Daniel's testimony electrifies the courtroom. His quiet dignity contrasts sharply with Rebecca's documented savagery. "She didn't just attack me that day," Daniel states calmly. "She attacked every person who looks like me, every child watching, every family trying to travel with dignity." Defense attorney Robert Mills attempts damage control with desperate arguments. "My client was following company policy regarding passenger safety." Chen destroys this defense with Delta's own internal communications. Email chains reveal corporate knowledge of Rebecca's behavior pattern. Supervisors ignored complaints for years, prioritizing crew authority over passenger rights. "Delta protected Miss Thornton's racism for 2 decades, Brooks argues. Corporate negligence enabled systematic civil rights violations. The trial became a media sensation. Courtroom cameras broadcast live coverage to millions. Legal experts praised the prosecution's methodical destruction of workplace discrimination. Rebecca's union abandons her completely when evidence emerges of falsified incident reports. The union cannot defend documented fraud and civil rights violations, their representative announces publicly. Expert witnesses testify about the psychological impact of public racial humiliation. Dr. Sarah Johnson, a trauma specialist, explains how Rebecca's actions create lasting damage. Victims experience PTSD symptoms for years after such incidents. The economic testimony proves devastating. Forensic accountants calculate Rebecca's discrimination cost passengers millions in lost business opportunities, medical bills, and therapeutic treatment. Congressional hearings run parallel to the criminal trial. House Judiciary Committee Chairman David Rodriguez subpoenas airline executives for public testimony about industry-wide discrimination. "How many Rebecca Thorntons are still working in your industry?" Rodriguez demands of Delta's CEO Morrison. Morrison's testimony sparks immediate reform legislation. The Airline Passenger Dignity Act passes both chambers with overwhelming bipartisan support. The president signs it amid a ceremony highlighting civil rights progress. International aviation organizations adopt American anti-discrimination standards. Rebecca's case becomes required study in aviation schools worldwide. Her live stream serves as training material for what never to do. Victim impact statements fill 3 entire court sessions. Rebecca's face remains stone throughout, showing no emotion as lives destroyed by her hatred speak truth to power. The jury deliberates only 90 minutes before returning unanimous guilty verdicts on all 12 federal charges: civil rights violations, filing false police reports, conspiracy to deny constitutional rights, every count proven beyond doubt. Judge Williams delivers sentencing with judicial gravity. "Miss Thornton, your actions represent the worst of American service industry discrimination. Your live stream documented deliberate racial targeting that shames our nation. Rebecca receives 3.5 years federal prison, near the maximum sentence. 7 years of supervised probation follows. $500,000 fine goes directly to civil rights organizations. You will complete 1,000 hours of community service at organizations serving communities you targeted," Judge Williams continues. "Perhaps exposure to their humanity will teach you what 22 years in aviation failed to." The civil lawsuit judgment proves equally devastating. Daniel receives $75 million in personal damages from Rebecca, garnished from any future earnings for life. Delta's corporate settlement reaches $300 million. $150 million more comes from the class action suit representing Rebecca's previous victims. The airline industry's largest discrimination settlement sends shockwaves through corporate America. Educational initiatives multiply rapidly. Rebecca's case becomes a mandatory curriculum in business ethics, civil rights law, and corporate responsibility courses. Major universities analyze her systematic discrimination as a case study in unchecked workplace power. Documentary rights sell to Netflix for educational distribution. Flight 447, When Hatred Goes Viral, wins Emmy nominations for exposing service industry racism. Rebecca's own footage provides irrefutable evidence of her cruelty. Corporate diversity training programs cite her case as a primary example of discrimination consequences. Human resources departments nationwide implement Rebecca protocols, immediate termination for any discrimination incidents. Medical and legal professional ethics courses include the incident in the required curriculum. How to recognize and report discrimination becomes mandatory training across service industries. International human rights organizations highlight the case in global discrimination reports. The United Nations cites it as an example of effective justice system response to workplace racism. Social and cultural impact spreads beyond aviation. #Dignity in Travel movement reaches 100 million social media participants. Annual Daniel Washington Day proclamation spread across multiple state governments. Civil rights organizations see 400% increases in discrimination reporting. Rebecca's public destruction encourages victims to come forward with previously hidden experiences. The movement creates lasting change. Corporate discrimination training programs show 65% reduction in reported incidents. Academic research confirms measurable reduction in service industry bias. Rebecca begins serving her sentence at federal prison in Coleman, Florida. Her cellmates know her story from viral social media. Prison guards treat her with professional courtesy tinged by knowledge of her crimes. Letters arrive from discrimination victims worldwide, some supportive of her punishment, others offering forgiveness she hasn't earned. Rebecca reads each one, finally confronting the human cost of her hatred. The system that protected her for 22 years now holds her completely accountable. Justice arrives comprehensively, publicly, and permanently. Daniel's foundation has funded legal representation for 2,000 discrimination victims. His model of dignified resistance while demanding systemic accountability became a template for civil rights advocacy. Federal aviation discrimination complaints dropped 78% industry-wide. 23 states passed passenger protection laws directly citing Rebecca's case. International aviation standards update globally. The expanded justice transforms an individual incident into generational change. Rebecca's live-streamed hatred becomes a catalyst for transportation equality she never intended to create. 1 year later, Daniel Washington stands before 10,000 people at the Lincoln Memorial. The marble steps where Martin Luther King Jr. delivered his dream now witness another chapter in America's long journey toward justice. The morning sun casts golden light across the reflecting pool, and the air carries the weight of history. 12 months ago, Rebecca Thornton kicked my suitcase and thought she was putting me in my place, Daniel begins, his voice carrying clearly through the sound system. What she actually did was kick open a conversation this country needed to have. The crowd falls silent, hanging on every word. News cameras capture the moment for global broadcast. Behind Daniel, the marble statue of Lincoln seems to listen with ancient patience. That day, I wasn't Daniel Washington, the CEO. I was just another black man who dared to occupy a space someone thought I didn't belong in. But here's what Rebecca didn't understand. My success gave me the platform to demand justice, not just for myself, but for everyone who doesn't have the power to make that phone call. Daniel's reflection deepens, drawing from months of speaking to discrimination victims across the country. I learned something profound during those 2 hours of systematic humiliation. Maintaining dignity isn't about suppressing anger. It's about channeling that energy into lasting change. The Washington Foundation has transformed lives nationwide. 2,000 discrimination victims now have legal representation they couldn't afford before. Corporate America trembles at the mention of workplace bias, knowing the financial and reputational consequences. Rebecca spent 22 years terrorizing passengers who looked like me, Daniel continues, but her live stream became evidence in 47 federal civil rights cases. Every moment of cruelty she broadcast helped convict other perpetrators. The statistical transformation is remarkable. Federal aviation discrimination complaints dropped 78% industry-wide. Corporate discrimination training programs report 65% reduction in incidents. Rebecca's public destruction created the accountability structure her victims never had. Rebecca Thornton is serving her federal sentence at Coleman Prison in Florida. She works in the laundry for 12 cents an hour. Her wages are garnished to pay the $75 million judgment she owes me. Daniel pauses, letting the weight of justice settle over the crowd. But this was never about destroying one woman. This was about exposing a system that protected her hatred for 2 decades. The broader impact continues expanding. International aviation organizations adopted American bias prevention standards. 23 states passed passenger protection laws citing Rebecca's case. Congressional legislation now protects travelers from crew discrimination. Here's what I need you to understand. Daniel's voice rises with passionate intensity. Rebecca's live stream has 200 million views. It serves as evidence in discrimination cases worldwide. Every person who witnessed her abuse and chose to document it became part of the justice that followed. Educational initiatives multiply continuously. Business schools require Rebecca's case in corporate responsibility courses. Medical and legal ethics programs use her systematic discrimination as a cautionary example. Children's books teach dignity under adversity using Daniel's response model. But this isn't about one racist flight attendant. This is about a system that enabled her for 22 years while she traumatized passengers who looked like me. Daniel challenges the audience directly. That live stream Rebecca made to humiliate me, she spent 2 hours trying to prove that money can't buy respect. She was right about one thing. Money can't buy respect. But it can buy lawyers, fund investigations, and create foundations that protect everyone who comes after me. The call to action builds systematically. If you witness discrimination, document it. Your video could save someone's career or life. Subscribe and share this story with someone who needs to see that justice is possible. Daniel's final challenge resonates across the memorial steps. Comment below with your experiences. Silence protects perpetrators. Follow the Washington Foundation to support ongoing civil rights work. Use #DignityInTravel to share stories of transportation discrimination. Statistical updates demonstrate continuing impact. Over 2,000 airline employees have been terminated for discrimination since the incident. $1.2 billion in corporate settlements for passenger discrimination cases. 34 states now require bias training for transportation workers. Here's what I want to know. Daniel's voice carries prophetic power. In those 2 hours when Rebecca was live streaming my humiliation, how many people were watching and laughing? How many thought I deserved it? And how many are still out there in positions of power, waiting for their moment to show someone their place? The provocative questions hang in the air like challenges to conscience. But more importantly, when you encounter your Rebecca, and you will you document it? Will you speak up? Or will you be another silent witness to injustice? Daniel's final words echo against marble and history. Because every time someone stays silent, every time someone looks away, every time someone chooses comfort over courage, another Rebecca gets to kick another suitcase and humiliate another human being. The crowd erupts in sustained applause. Phones capture every moment for social media distribution. The message spreads like ripples across water. That phone call didn't just end Rebecca's career. It started a movement. And this movement isn't stopping until dignity isn't determined by the color of your skin or the size of your bank account. Daniel's closing frame resonates with finality. Subscribe if you want to be part of the solution, because the choice is yours.